everyone. Today I'll be recording a video on how you can use Claude to learn data engineering. So there are few principles for, like, I would just go into the specific things when what you which you do while solving issues in a data pipeline. So my experience with Claude would be from the perspective of as a data engineer. So let's start with how can I use Claude as a data engineer. First thing, I will just try to understand what does it show up. So I can use these things for understanding. I'll start from the basic and then we'll move on gradually, step by step, to understand data engineering. So, just a brief intro about me. I work as a data engineer and I have uh, multiple certification in data engineering, and this is how I started, and I learn every day. It's not just that you are learning just in one day and it's done. You learn a bit every day. So understanding, as it said, pipeline and detailed development and SQL. So the core is you should understand SQL and also the data modeling principles. So basically, what I use from my everyday perspective is, for example, I have a data pipeline. Can you provide, uh, let me type a prompt. Can you provide a code wherein I have a data pipeline which which is created on created on Databricks. So in Databricks you have catalog wherein you can actually have a look at the schema of the table, and depends where your schema, how your schema is defined. So you can have your schema either in bronze table or silver table or gold table, and there are gold extracted as well. So raw bronze is basically a raw data, wherein whereas in silver you have the data transformations involved. And so the thing which I'm trying to understand through Claude is, because I do use Databricks as well as Power BI as well as dashboards. So I'm just trying to ask, how can I use it when a data pipeline which is created in Databricks have an issue, and I can't figure out the issue. So it's like a step-by-step process. How do we debug issue in a data pipeline? What are the steps involved? I know, like, there are multiple people telling about data engineering, but I would just like to speak from my own experience of every day. What is my framework of thinking of resolving an issue whenever there is an issue? Because let's start this here. What are the steps involved? And so what can Claude do for me? So I am using Claude. I'm using a subscription which is available to everyone. So it is good for learning. You do not have to, like, as you say, ingest from bronze layer, transform in silver layer. If there is a schema mismatch, you have analysis exception, pipeline can halt here, right? You usually have so these are which is like a very good visual flow chart or a diagram to understand. For example, this is a PySpark code. So in this, there's a buggy pipeline as it says. So I actually deal with Spark SQL. So what I will do is, I can go with the data frame. I do understand the transformation, but in order to behave in a manner where I actually deal with Spark SQL. So I'll just say, can you change the code to Spark SQL? Spark SQL. So it's like now I don't know, it hasn't changed. So it should ideally change it to SQL, although what it has done is it has put up the Spark SQL command within a SQL statement and created a aggregated data frame. For example, it is reading from a table which is raw sales.csv. Format is CSV, and we are including header as true. And then we are creating a view on top of it, raw sales. I don't know why it has created a view, but on the raw table, you never create a view in the bronze layer. In the second step, you are actually transforming it. What are the transformation we are doing? So correct column is price. So what is that? We are just filtering out something where date is not null, amount is not null, and we are just creating a new column revenue, right? And then we create again a view on the top of it, silver sales. And then what you do is we create a gold view, a gold table or a data frame. So in the gold, what we are doing, we are aggregating it, right? We are taking the total revenue, total transaction, average revenue. Then we create a view on the top of it. So all transformation, group by aggregation. So this is like pretty simple, but if you want to understand in the SQL terms, which is also very nice. So what you have done is you create or replace a view, which is in a silver sales. So you are doing the transformation, then again you create a gold sales view. I hope people understand the difference between view and a table. When do we use view and table? So these are like architectural designs. So let me ask this. Yes, there is a absurd logic. Let's understand. Yes, can you explain? Yes, can you explain absurd and the different scenarios? Because in absurd, understanding absurd is not enough. I mean, these are very different terms, and it will take you a while to even understand what is absurd logic and when do you use it? How does it change the schema of a table? And then partitioning. What is partitioning? And error handling to this pipeline. Can you explain absurd and partitioning, right? Partitioning, these are very important terms so this series is again linked to understanding of data engineering principles, especially from the Databricks perspective, or mostly Databricks perspective. So let's understand this. So absurd is like, so it's gonna provide you a code where you use merge into from the source into the target, and based on the condition. So you have an incoming record coming in and key match in target. Then you update or insert depending on the condition. If the row does not exist, you add it to the table. If it exists and you want to just update it, then you do it. Now for the partitioning. So you can partition your table based on region or sale date it's like to reduce the time, the whole principle behind data engineering is to reduce your time in scanning the number of records or the rows, and which helps a lot. And so can you see that so basically what you are doing is in the region of Australia, AU, there are 14 GB data, right? 820K rows and 4 Parquet files. Not necessary. Parquet files is the best format to store the data because it's easy columnar format. It's easier to read. Whereas in the region US is this, and the region EAU is this. If you try to read all the regions, again, it's gonna take a long time for you to read, because basically it's the number of records, So if delta table, you just ingest into the bronze, then create a temp view, which is like a view on the top of the raw sales. Then you transform the actually you are not can you see there is a thing to it. You are creating a view because you don't want to actually change the underlying table. You want to do the transformation from the view data instead of changing the underlying table. So this is again an architectural principle wherein you do things from the view, not from the table. You don't touch the table. That's I would say, like, because while working in a prod environment, your data is very sensitive, so you have to be very careful with that. This is And then aggregate gold. Similarly, you create a view on top of each time you do the aggregations and the transformation. Transformation is silver layer, gold is aggregation. Step 5, you are using merge into. What's the difference between Spark SQL and Spark? It's like you can directly write the SQL statements. You don't even have to use the spark.sql. So let me explain what's happening in this part. So you are merging into gold. Sales summary is the target table and gold aggregate as a source. Wherever the sales rate match and the region match, you update the target total revenue from the source total revenue. Whenever it's not matching, then you insert the new record. So, and can you let's deep dive some more. Can you explain what sort of join is being used? Join is being used, although there is no join, but I mean there is shuffling of data happens. Is being used in absurd. Like, let us understand this. Full outer join internally to compare source and target. So these are the core principles. I mean, I'm just trying to pick up an example and go from there. I'm not necessarily going theory by theory, right? I'm not trying to teach you something. I'm just trying to help you understand how things work in real world, instead of just taking an example and not going deep diving into things. What is an outer join? You need to, in order to understand joins, for example, you have the source table and a target table. From the source you merge onto target based on your conditions. These are the different conditions which you can see. So, and what merge does: update target row when matched, insert row this. So this is a pure SQL code, right? So in order to be a data engineer, you have to have very good understanding of SQL. That is primary in this current times. Being good at SQL is super important when even when you are starting. So like now it says, can you would you like to compare left join or inner join? Let's do it. Yes, please do it. So I'm just using Claude to understand and do things for me in terms of, I'll come to an example as well where I take in a file and I actually do things. So data engineering is from source to target, and between there are transformation. So let's see this. I know there are so many tutorials out there. I am not bothered by tutorials. I want people to learn from the things around them. Instead of going through a tutorial for 2 hours, it's not gonna help. Nobody has the time to go through a tutorial for 2 hours to understand data engineering. People also have a lack of understanding of these joins, and I go to the fundamental things, so that whenever you are able to understand fundamentals, then you are able to do good things as well. You are able to create new solutions, fix the data pipelines, create idempotent data pipelines. So inner join, like two sets matching elements, left join, cross join. So these sort of joins are there, right? And yes, now let's take an example. Can you explain through by ingesting data from an Excel sheet, from an open data set, and then do the above. Like, let's see the example of this, right? I write code every day, so it's not an issue for me. I'm just trying to go through it and explain it to people what it actually does. So I'm just taking an example of a good open data set. For example, the most popular New York taxi data set. I I mean, most of us have worked through this data set, right? It's not like, it's very unlikely you may not have seen this data set. So I would like to see how it actually works for me, you know. So writing up joins and insert. I would not make this video too long. It's just an intro video to understand data engineering using Claude and performing your task using Claude. I know that in prod systems, Claude may not be allowed, but for understanding and for doing it may be allowed depending on the enterprise. Uh, so vendor ID, passenger count. So this is how a schema of a table looks like. So what is a column name? What is its type? And what are the examples, right? So this is a Databricks. It's like a Jupyter notebook. So you read the data set, then you retrieve it, and then you read the Parquet file, right? And then you print the schema. And to show the data frame, the first 5 rows, truncate, false, you know, like let's see how it works, you know, because now we don't need to watch videos for hours to understand things or to execute tasks. That's my whole point of explaining data engineering using Claude. And these are not like, I am not writing down a script. I'm just taking an example and going end to end to understand the data engineering from source to target. Source lineage, target lineage, what are the transformation happening in between? So click through each step. So first is ingest, bronze, silver, gold. What I will say now, tell it, can you show the transformation, transformation in bronze, silver, and gold? And what does gold does is and then create a view on gold table, and then create a visualization from that, right? A small visualization, because we can't do a bigger visualization in Databricks itself. You actually need the dashboard tools like Power BI or Tableau, right? Yeah, let's see. What does it do? You know, this is a pure good example of to understand, and I'm also explaining the principles which are being used. You can debug your pipeline. You can mostly you have an issue with the source. That's what happens. So it's gonna do it. No network in the sandbox. I'll simulate the full in Python and build everything logically, and then create a rich interactive visualization. So it is doing everything for me, which is again a huge advantage. You know, it saves a lot of time. Um, I have not. I'm using a free plan, so you don't have to always. I mean, you can, up to you. Like, I don't need it to buy an like a subscription or something. I just do it because I like using it. I just want to understand how it works, because there's so many models out there. You won't be buying a subscription for everything, right? That's my whole point. Full interactive dashboard will be there. I mean, what else you need? You know, you can supply your bronze data. I know it does not work like this, but the source is actually done through Azure Data Factory or in ADLS, these sort of source, and then they are moving on to the bronze layer. So let's see. It's gonna take a while to actually create the dashboard, but this is the last step. Like, starting from the bronze up until dashboard, and the dashboard again will have its own users, and which are using data in their way, the way they want to use it. Because for each user or each different unit, there will be different use cases. Based on that, you are given access to the dashboard. Let's see how it works, because I want to see the visualization created by this Claude. And also you can change the models, right? I mean, depends. You can also increase the extended thinking. I think that is more of and there are more models. You can select any upgrade. Like, these are not paid, these are paid ones. So I can choose the way I want to do. So yeah. I don't want to stop it because it's gonna take a while. Let us see what it builds up. And I'm yeah. So let's make it a bit. Yeah, my bad. I should have actually increased the size of it so that it's easier for people to understand. And I don't know whether it's gonna take a while or can you do it fast? Let's see, or be quick. Can you do it quickly? I think it's still processing, right? So it is. Let's see what is happening behind the scenes. So there is a whole pipeline which is being done, right? So it's not just and earlier I didn't see that because it's processing a large number of data rows and it's reading the Manhattan, New York City data set. Um, so now so you can see everything happening behind the scenes. It isn't just like a black box. Yeah, it's a magical tool. I would agree to that. But yes, it is really nice to see. Um, these sort of things. Yeah, it's just setting up, creating the HTML page. Full interactive. I suppose it would be ready soon. Yes, I guess it is ready because yes, presenting the files. Oh, it's beautiful, right? I can open it in Safari as well, right? So as you can see, right, in the browse you have this. In the browse, what are we doing? We are actually reading the data set from the source, and it's like a Parquet file. Then we see the total number of rows, null passengers. In the silver, we clean up the data set. It will depend on person to person, right? So let's expand it a little bit to understand. So you can also adjust the window size, right, which is beautiful, right? And then you can have a simple visualization that total revenue by borough, Jan 20 trip volume. You can have different comparison, right? Tip percentage. So as we can see, Queens has the Queens and Brooklyn had really good percentage revenue share, right? So Manhattan has the highest revenue daily trend. So it's beautiful graph. Like I didn't expect this, to be honest. Like it is like a magic. It's beautiful, and now it's asking me to upgrade to try this. But it's beautiful, right? And you can also open up in your web browser. I wouldn't go to the web browser. So so all your visualization come through this cold view, right? So what is happening in here, right? You are creating total trips, total revenue, average tip count, average distance, average rest ratio, and revenue, right? Revenue share percentage, taxi summary, pickup borough, and you can see that you can call this view and use it in multiple places. You don't need to create each. You can have a single source of cold view and use at multiple dashboards, right? Join it with other tables. That's what happens. Yeah, so it's like beautiful. Like I kind of yeah, it's really helpful to start with, but you should also understand the SQL statements, right? That is super important. So with this, I think I would like to end this video. And if you guys really like what I'm sharing, uh, please like and I mean, yeah, if you really think I'm doing the good thing by sharing my knowledge, please do support. Thank you.